Hi guys, it's Sunday afternoon back here at the greenhouse doing a little watering. I have a sprinkler set up on the raised beds and a sprinkler set up at the same time on the summer house. So I just watered in the greenhouse for the few plants that are left there. So everything's getting a nice drink. We are certainly going into drought territory, which is without any rain coming in the foreseeable future. So as much as we like these bright sunny days, this is when we start getting concerned in agriculture about what the weather's going to be like. We really do need some rain. But today I'm going to start talking to you about pruning. I'm going to first begin with showing you some of the tools we use for pruning. So that'll be the what we prune with. Then we'll move on to why we prune, when we prune, and how we prune. So we'll start with what we use to prune. And just like we said in Horticulture 1 or Intro to Hort, we always have our basic, most important pruning tool with us, and that's our hands. When you prune, you start with the smallest tool you need and you move up. It's kind of like that video game where in the first levels you've got the small guns or the small things to combat the bad guys, and as you move up and you have bigger opponents, you use larger weapons to get the job done. And pruning's kind of the same way. So we're going to start by having our hands be the smallest pruning tool that we're going to use. We talked about pinching out that terminal bud in order to get plant to branch out and spread and have multiple stems, and so we would use our fingers as our primary pruning tool for that sometimes. Even just walking by a plant, doing the grooming that we've done in the greenhouse, that's basic pruning. Picking out those bad parts of the plant, that's basic pruning. So you'd start with your hands. From there, we've got a whole variety of tools. The biggest of all, which would be the chainsaw. It's been my goal for the last few years to have basic chainsaw safety be a part of the pruning unit in the greenhouse management. I was going to have Bruce teach that part of the class to us so that we could all have some, we wouldn't have chainsaw skills that would allow us to go out into the woods and harvest timber or cut cordwood or clear land or do a timber cruise. It wouldn't be that kind of chainsaw safety, but the kind of basic chainsaw safety that a landscaper or an arboriculturalist would need to do some basic maintenance pruning. So one of the things I want you to remember is that your pruning tools start with your fingers and go all the way up to the big guy, which is the chainsaw. So what are some of the other things that are in between? And I would like you guys to take a few notes here and pay attention to some of the different kinds of tools that we need, because I'll have a few questions for you about different scenarios and what tool you would use in those different scenarios. So hand pruners. Hand pruners are our next kind of category, and they come in all shapes and sizes, and they also come in a variety of qualities. My rule here in the greenhouse has always been to buy the best tools possible, because I think if you have better tools, you can do a better job and you actually take care of your nicer things a little bit better. In the toolbox over there is a bunch of junky, not that great, inexpensive pruners that have been kicking around here for a long time. And truthfully, when students from other classes come out here and ask to use some hand pruners, I direct them to that toolbox. Because by the time you guys are using the equipment here in class, even from day one, I feel like you respect the stuff, you respect the equipment, you take care of it. We don't lose a lot of stuff in our classes, but I think it's because you guys care about what we're using and you know that we have good equipment. So the good stuff, the good equipment, sometimes they need to be cleaned. Some of these could be cleaned and sharpened, which is something we would be working on if we were in here together right now. So in the no plant scissor drawer are where I hide all the good pruners. And like I said, they come in a variety of sizes. Most of you have used these little pruners here. These are by Dram. They cost about $20 a pair. They're nice and sharp. They make nice cuts. And so we use these when we're doing some small pruning. They're nice and sharp, but you couldn't take too big a stem or a branch with these guys. So The branches are measured by caliper. Branches or stems are measured by caliper. So caliper is how big around it is. And when you go in and buy a pair of pruners, it will say, a good pair of pruners will tell you on the packaging how up to what size caliper that the pruners can handle. So these are two other good pairs of pruners. They're both by Corona. Fecto is another good brand. These will cost you anywhere between $35 and $50 a piece. A really fine pair of pruners can cost over $100. It's kind of like the hairdresser who uses the really expensive scissors to give their clients the best haircut. This is called an anvil pruner, and you can see that the way the pruner lines up, it just kind of chops it right down, kind of like an alligator's mouth. That's an anvil pruner. This is called a bypass pruner. Both of these pruners will cut branches about the same caliber, like a 3/4 to a 1-inch caliper. But this bypass pruner, you can see the blades go past each other. They bypass each other. So instead of the flat chop, like the anvil pruner, the bypass pruner, the blades go past each other. They bypass each other. I personally prefer a bypass pruner. That's just me. And again, all of these guys need to be cleaned. They get a little gunked up. You can put a little bit of a stone on them, wet stone, and sharpen them up a little bit. We would have been doing that together. So these are three of your kind of basic sizes of hand pruners. If you're doing a job where the hand pruner isn't big enough, moving up, you might need a pair of these guys. These aren't big pruners. If you say big pruners, you're going to sound like a ding-a-ling. You're not going to sound like a smart horticulture student. And so often all these things in horticulture are about having the right vocabulary. You know, you can sound smart when you can identify plants and identify tools and use the right vocabulary. We would be having a tool ID test on pruning if we were here for a couple more weeks and we were all in here together. So this is a pair of loppers. And loppers, like hand pruners, can be bypass loppers. These are bypass loppers. Or they can be anvil loppers. So these cost about $50 a pair. You can see where, I don't know if you can see that blade. See how that blade is broken? That's because someone from another class, no names, what class that might be, came in and used our pruners. And so this is not going to be a good edge to cut our branches or our stems with. That's one of the things we always want to make sure we do. When we start pruning, you want your tools to be really clean and really sharp, because just like if you got a ragged, dirty cut on your skin, it would not hold up, it would not heal up as quickly as a clean, straight cut. Those heal faster, you're healthier, your body can fight through that a little bit better. When you get a jagged cut with something dirty, you might need to go and get a tetanus shot, okay? It's about the same kind of thing for plants. The sharper the cut, the cleaner the cut, the sharper the tools, the cleaner the tools, the faster the plant is going to recover and not get some disease introduced to it, because that happens all the time. Dirty tools can introduce disease to your plants. So these are loppers, and we have a bunch of different kinds of loppers. The good loppers are kept behind my desk. The junky loppers for other classes are kept in the closet. But every once in a while, I'm a softie, and I lend these out to people I shouldn't lend them out to, and they use them to cut things that obviously are not plant material. Not good. Okay, so these are loppers, and we have several different kinds and sizes of loppers. These loppers are also by Dram, and they have an extending handle. So they, see that? I don't know if you saw that. So the handles can extend and then lock back into place. And that allows you to reach in some larger areas for pruning. I personally love pruning. I don't know if I've told you guys that yet. Pruning is like one of my favorite things to do. It just like makes a plant healthy, makes it look better. When we start talking more about why we'll prune, we'll talk about how much I love pruning. So these are extendable handled loppers. These guys are a little bit bigger. They're loppers as well. These are also by Corona, like the hand pruners, and you can see that these can handle a much larger caliper stem than these loppers can, or than these hand pruners can. okay? So we also have a pair of these larger loppers with extendable handles. I just didn't, so you can really get high up into your areas. These are actually heavy. Pruning can be a real workout, okay? So that's what these are. These are another larger pair of loppers. Sometimes we need pruners that are more for a more specific job. These big blades like this, these are called hedge trimmers, okay? You can get electric or gas-powered hedge trimmers as well. One of my personal rules of thumb about pruning hedges is I try not to use these whenever I can. Some circumstances, and we'll talk about it as we get there, call for using a hedge trimmer so you get a really flat cut. But when we start talking about the reasons why we prune, one of them is going to be light penetration, and we'll talk about why using a pruner like this cuts down on light penetration. But these are called hedge trimmers. They have these longer blades. This pair also has extendable handles, so you can see I can close them up. Allows me to get into places that are farther away. If you're spending an hour or so out pruning hedges and using hedge trimmers, your arms the next day will be exhausted. It's a great way to stay. Gardening is a great way to stay in shape anyways, but pruning is really one of those. So here's our hedge pruner. That's another tool. We use a variety of saws as well. Sometimes the angle of where you're going isn't something you don't really need a chainsaw. Maybe it's not the safest environment to use a chainsaw in. That happens sometimes. Even though we're all dying to grab our power tools, sometimes a chainsaw isn't the safest choice. So we use a variety of different saws in pruning as well. This is called a bow saw, a very important thing to have. We also use it to cut down our Christmas trees. But this is a bow saw, so that's another pruning tool that we would use quite a bit. You know, when the branch or the stem is too big for the large pruners, then you get your bow saw out. And I also love this little guy. It's a pocket saw. It's a great little pruning tool. This can pretty much cut just about almost anything that this can cut. The blade, you know, this can take a larger stem off, but you can actually do quite a bit with this. These are by Fecto. I love these. We have a couple of them over there in the no plant scissor drawer. So I call this a pocket saw. If you were a landscaper or an arborist, you were forester, you'd probably have one of these in your pocket at all times, just in case you needed to get anything out of your way. So that's great. Pole saw, a pocket saw. Sorry, next we are going to talk about pole saws. We have a couple different kinds here in the greenhouse. I hope you can see this. This one has a blade, this one is just a pole pruner. You can see how long it is. And here's the pruning end right here. It's got this little blade where if I pull the handle, you can see how it chops. You put that around, way up in a tree, and you can chop out branches with that. That's a pole pruner. This is a pole saw. This is a pole saw pruner combo. So this is, again, got the really long handle. So this also has the pruning blade here where you can cut with these ropes. But you can see this has got some cobwebs on it. But it also has this saw that you can get way up into a tree to saw a branch. So that's a pole saw pruner combo. And then they also have motorized pole saws. So this pole saw, this goes on to the end of it's like a little chainsaw that goes on to this, one of our trimmers. So this has an end like this that you take your string trimmer blade off or your blade off on your weed whacker, and you would put this on instead. And so this can really get you, this is great. Works just like a weed whacker going, just get it up there and whoo, take off the branches. This is really, really handy to have when you're doing tree work. So next is our chainsaw. I didn't bring one out of the ag shop to show you today. Guessing you all pretty much know what a chainsaw looks like and how to identify a chainsaw. And so that's it. Small to big, we use a weapon of choice. We step up in our needs for what we have. We have a wide range of tools available to us when we start pruning. And we start with our hands and we make our way all the way up to our big chainsaw. Okay? All right, so have a great day. Talk to you soon.